Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. My name is Brad Draper. I'm going to adjust this mic because I did some Zoom calls in here. Mic's all weirdo. Anyways, getting after it. I'm grateful you are here. Did I say simple steps for showing up? Because these are simple steps for showing up. It is literally one step. That's what these podcasts truly are. They are just one thing, one nugget that you can implement today. The question is, when you listen to these, are you just listening or are you applying? Which ones are you doing? It is amazing how far a small and simple step will take you when done consecutively over time. One of the things I want to get into today, it's actually, I guess you can call it almost a two-part series. These are two topics I want to cover that I will do over the next two episodes. But it's amazing what you do line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. You keep moving forward. Early on in your journey, little steps can take you really far. You always hear about the first grand step, immediate massive action. Well, that massive action doesn't always mean something huge. It might mean something very small. And how important it is to understand that fact. We're so often looking for this big home run hit right off the bat when it's just one thing every single day. Something that I do in our business is something that I don't currently need to do. I am going through the analytics of our data sets, and these data sets are anywhere from 600 to 1,000 line items every single day. We're to a point where that doesn't necessarily need to happen right now unless we make changes. Because day to day, everything shifts and it's just the same old thing every single day. But it keeps me engaged. It keeps me on the task, on the ball, keep moving forward, right? My brother, he does daily strategy. Our contractor, he doesn't always work on our project every day because we hire him and he's got a lot of clients. But me going in every day, one, keeps my mind focused, but it also gives me a reason to call our engineer and keep on top of him. Hey, I saw this. Hey, I noticed that. So the other day, I was going through the data set and I, for the first time, keep in mind, I have looked at this data set more or less every day, Monday through Friday, for over a year. And I just found a pattern. Interesting, right? Every single day I look at it and I finally noticed a pattern. And it's a pattern that can be corrected because in algorithmic things, math, if there's a pattern, that means the pattern has been coded in and can be coded out or can be changed. This pattern was very obvious, but it took me over a year of every day looking at it to see it. Would I have seen that had I not been in there every single day? It is so interesting as, like I said early on, simple acts, big acts, massive action, it doesn't matter. The needle moves very, very far, very quickly. But later on, as you are deep in the woods, as you are far in your journey, those changes become very, very subtle. They become very almost non-distinguishable. Kind of like seeing this pattern. I've been looking at these sets, training my eyes, training my mind to see patterns, to recognize things that are obvious, but not obvious at the same time. I trained my eyes to see things, and in doing so, I found this pattern. I have found many patterns this way. We have corrected many things this way because I'm in it every single day. Day to day, is there any change? More or less, no. But with time, change happens. This kind of idea came about because last week, on my deadlift day, which is Saturday, I broke a lifetime record. I'll take you back probably, oh goodness, eight or 9 years ago. I had a goal of deadlifting 500 pounds. In my mind, that was the pinnacle for my body type, for my body weight. That's the most I could do. At the time, that's what I thought. And I was training pretty regularly, straight bar, And there's a lot of different bar types. For those that don't know, different bars matter. Different types of metal matter in certain movements as you get up in weight. So I was training with a fairly rigid bar, straight bar. And 5 years ago, probably, 4 years ago, I pulled for the first time 500 pounds on a flat bar. And it was a really cool moment. That was a lifetime personal record that I had chased for about 5 years. Slowly growing. When I made that goal, I was deadlifting somewhere in the 315 pound range, and then slowly grew to 500 pounds. And then I thought, I just did 500 pounds. I think that's the most I'll ever do in my life, and I'm really happy with it. And then some time went on, and I changed from straight bar to trap bar. And for those that don't know, straight bar, your hands are in front of you. Trap bar, your hands are to the side of you. So it's a little like octagon shape or hexagon or pentagon, whatever shape that brand is. Think of an octagon, and the handles are to your side. So it's a little bit more natural for your hips. It's a little more natural for your back, and you stand a little taller. So you're not as deep in the lift. And for people like me that have really long femurs and long legs, that makes a big difference. It's much easier on my hip flexors and my hip rotation. So I started training with the trap bar, and I was regularly hitting 475, 495, 500 pounds. And 500 pounds was for a single. And then I thought, man, can I go higher? Can I do more? And so I started training. And over the course of about a year, I went from 500 pounds to 515 pounds. And then I thought, man, I really want to hit 550 pounds. I think I can do it. I think I can hit 550 pound deadlift for one rep. And so I went back to programming. I started working accessory muscles. I started working different things and slowly working over time to build. And I moved to a new gym, and they have a different weighted trap bar. Instead of being a 45-pound trap bar, I didn't know what its weight was. I just knew it was more. And so I loaded the normal amount of weight that I would hit to do the 500 plus. And then I said, I wonder what this weight of this bar is. I didn't know. It was 73 pounds. And I didn't realize that I was doing, for sets of 2 or 3, 523 pounds. I was 8 pounds over my lifetime record and didn't even know it. How cool is that? But that took about a year to do. And then fast forward, I was at 523. I said, we can grow more. And so over 6 months, I went from 523 and I finally hit 553 pounds on my deadlift. And I didn't hit that ever again for a while, several months. I'd grow close. I'd push 495, 500, 515, but I'd never get up to that 550 range again. So I decided, can I hit it again? And here's the thing. When I thought that, I went in last week and my head was so congested. I had allergies like you can't imagine. I was tearing. My nose was running. I was so much pressure in my head, but my body felt great. My back, my legs, my arms, everything felt great except for the pressure in my head. And so I walked in and said, I'm not going to go for a lifetime record today. I'm not going to try and break 553. I'm just going to get the checkbox done today. And as I worked into the sets, my head pressure started to clear up and my body felt really good. So I started pulling higher and higher and higher. And then all of a sudden, I got 553 pounds for a single rep. And I looked at it and I said, that moved really well. My body is feeling optimal at this moment in time. Let's throw on a featherweight. A featherweight is a 1 pound, 1.1 actually, it's 0.5 kilos. So 1.1 pound weight. These weights are pretty much meaningless in every capacity except for this one. You're trying to break a record. And whether you break a record by a foot or by a mile, you still break the record. So I went and got the 0.5 kilo and I had loaded up 555 pounds. And I loaded into it, and lo and behold, I pulled it and I put it down. Here's the thing. When you get to your maximum level, you're only moving by featherweights. You're only moving by the lightest, smallest weight they really pretty much make. There are a little smaller. There are half pounders and quarter pounders. This gym that I'm at does not have it, but when you're on a world stage or you're on a competition stage, they do have those. Because whether you win by an inch or win by a mile, you still win. And how important it is to recognize these tiny shifts, these tiny movements. On the podcast my wife and I have called Choosing Us, we did an episode several weeks ago that I was not anticipating. And it went a little something like this. In our relationships, you hear about people drifting apart, right? People, life gets in the way, they drift apart, or you drift into non-fitness, you drift into obesity, you drift into irregular or unresourceful habits. You drift in these unresourceful things. What if you drifted into resourceful things? What if you drifted slowly into your relationships, slowly into fitness, slowly into journaling, reading your books, doing all these very resourceful habits and rituals? What if you drifted closer to your goals? Instead of magnificent movements, which have a high probability of failure, what if you drifted into your goals? Small, incremental change that is seemingly insignificant and indifferent day to day, but over a grand amount of time, huge shift. That causes lasting change. If you go ballistic, just like in the gym, if you go diet really hard for 30 days, most people that is fairly unsustainable. You can do it for 30 or 60 days, maybe even 90, and you can look amazing. But after that, you fall back in your old habits because it is such a big shift. It is too hard to maintain over a grand amount of time. But if you do a little shift, small. I was working at this local nutrition shop for a couple months. I was helping my buddy and he was helping me. We need to put food on the table. So he gave me a job. And the biggest question I always had was, what supplement do you guys have that would change everything? I want to lose all the weight. What supplements do you have? And I said, these are supplements to supplement your life, your fitness routine, and your food routine. I want you to go and track everything that goes in your mouth. And don't cheat yourself. If you're going to eat the bag of chips, but you're not going to because you're tracking them, eat the bag of chips. Eat the piece of chocolate. Eat the cake. Eat the donuts. Eat whatever you would normally eat. Just track it because that's what made the body that you currently have. That's what makes what you see in the mirror right now. That's your baseline. And then just shift it a little bit. Remove one thing. Shift down. Adjust your macros to be a better ratio. And then slowly bring it down 50 or 100 calories every couple of weeks. That creates lasting change. That is drifting into your goals. That is adding featherweights. As you get further along in your journey, the moves do not seem big because they're not big. They're very small, but they're very methodical. And in that methodical state, you can cast real change. So that's what I wanted to leave this episode with you today on featherweights. So share this episode with your friends and your family. Find me on socials, Mr. Brad Draper on all handles. Like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.